In the final years of life, change does not always arrive like a storm. It often comes quietly. One forgotten meal, one misstep, one unusually long nap. These subtle shifts may not seem significant at first, yet when we look back, we often realize they were the earliest signs that the body and mind were beginning to let go. For many families, these moments pass unnoticed until they gather in memory, only understood when the opportunity for preparation has already passed. The reality is that death, especially in old age, is rarely sudden. The human body, magnificent in its design, often gives early cues, small, delicate messages that something deeper is unfolding beneath the surface. These signs are not warnings to be feared, but signals to be understood. They offer an invitation, not to fight against time, but to walk alongside it with awareness, grace, and readiness. And then, understanding these quiet transformations allows families to do something incredibly powerful. It enables them to prepare, not just practically, but emotionally. It gives space for necessary conversations, heartfelt goodbyes, and deeply meaningful moments. Rather than focusing only on prolonging life at any cost, it offers a chance to refocus on preserving quality, dignity, and comfort in a person's final stage of living. In this guide, we will explore 5 often overlooked signs that suggest an elderly individual may be entering the final year of life. These signs are grounded in both medical insight and emotional experience. They include not only changes in the body, but also shifts in mood, behavior, and energy that, when recognized, can help guide decisions rooted in compassion and clarity. This journey is not an easy one, but it is a deeply human one. When approached with knowledge and love, it can become a chapter of peace, presence, and gentle letting go. Let us begin. Among the earliest and most telling signs that an elderly individual may be approaching the final chapter of life is the slow and sometimes unnoticed loss of body weight. Unlike intentional dieting or temporary changes in eating habits, this weight loss tends to emerge quietly, often escaping attention until clothes begin to hang more loosely, belts must be tightened, or the person's frame appears visibly smaller. To those closest, it might seem like a minor shift, a normal part of aging, but beneath the surface, it often reflects something far more serious. Weight loss in the final year of life is rarely isolated. It is typically the result of several interconnected changes in the body's systems. One of the most important contributing factors is the body's decreasing ability to absorb and utilize nutrients. As we age, digestion slows, and even with regular meals, the body may struggle to extract the nourishment it once processed with ease. Proteins, which are essential for muscle repair and energy, may no longer be broken down efficiently. This leads to a gradual but persistent loss of muscle mass, what medical professionals refer to as sarcopenia. This reduction in muscle not only affects physical appearance but also has serious implications for daily living. Muscles are responsible for stability, movement, and overall strength. When muscle mass declines too quickly, the individual becomes more vulnerable to falls, infections, and fatigue. Everyday tasks, getting out of a chair, climbing stairs, or even standing for extended periods, can become physically exhausting. This sets off a cycle in which the person becomes less active, further accelerating muscle loss and physical decline. Another key factor is a change in appetite. As the body begins to slow down in preparation for its final phase, the natural cues for hunger begin to fade. Elderly individuals may report that food no longer tastes as good, that they feel full after only a few bites, or that they simply forget to eat altogether. This is not a matter of choice or neglect, but rather a biological signal that the body is beginning to shift its priorities from growth and maintenance toward energy conservation. At this stage, families often try to intervene with good intentions. They may prepare favorite meals, encourage more frequent snacking, or add nutritional supplements to the daily routine. Sometimes these efforts help in the short term, especially when taste and appetite have not fully diminished. But in many cases, despite everyone's best efforts, the weight continues to drop. And the underlying issue remains. The body is no longer functioning the way it once did. It is not just food intake that is changing, it is the body's entire relationship with nourishment. Chronic conditions such as cancer, heart failure, or kidney disease can also play a role in this process. These illnesses often progress quietly, with weight loss being one of their earliest signs. Mental health challenges, particularly depression or cognitive decline, may also contribute. A person experiencing emotional numbness or confusion may lose interest in food altogether, not out of sadness or withdrawal, but because their mind is no longer connecting with the desire to eat. Understanding this complex relationship between aging and weight loss allows caregivers and loved ones to approach the situation with empathy rather than alarm. Forcing large meals or frequent snacks may only cause discomfort or distress. Instead, the goal becomes finding a balance between nourishment and ease, offering soft, easy-to-digest foods in smaller portions, creating calm, pleasant meal times, and ensuring hydration can go a long way in maintaining comfort without overwhelming the digestive system. It is also important to observe the emotional and psychological response to these changes. Individuals who have always taken pride in their health, appearance, or independence may feel discouraged by the visible signs of decline. A compassionate conversation, free of pressure or judgment, can help reassure them that they are not alone and that their dignity remains intact regardless of how their body may change. When significant and unintentional weight loss occurs, particularly if accompanied by reduced appetite, fatigue, or weakness, it is time to pay attention. While these signs may not mean that death is imminent, they do suggest that the body is entering a more delicate phase. Recognizing this allows everyone involved to shift the focus from correction to care, from worry to presence. It becomes an opportunity to create meaningful moments around the dinner table, even if meals are smaller. It invites a slowing down of the day, with room for gentle conversation, shared memories, and moments of quiet togetherness. Ultimately, unintentional weight loss in the final year of life is not just a number on the scale. It is a signal, a soft but steady message from the body that change is underway. And while we cannot stop the tide of time, we can choose to walk beside our loved ones with gentleness, offering not just food, but love, patience, and peace. As the body begins its gradual transition toward the final stages of life, one of the most profound and unmistakable changes is the presence of deep, unrelenting fatigue. This type of exhaustion is not the kind that resolves with a good night's sleep or an afternoon nap. It is a whole-body tiredness, slow-moving, deeply embedded, and often misunderstood by even the most attentive families. It reaches into the muscles, the mind, and the spirit, changing not only what a person can do, but also how they feel about themselves. In the elderly, fatigue may begin subtly. A loved one who once woke early to tend the garden or read the paper may start sleeping later and taking more frequent breaks during the day. Simple tasks like folding laundry, cooking meals, or even walking from one room to another may require visible effort. Over time, this physical weakness grows more noticeable, and the rhythm of daily life begins to change. What was once routine now feels burdensome, and the need to rest becomes more frequent and more pressing. At its core, this persistent fatigue reflects a shift in how the body allocates its energy. In earlier stages of life, energy is used for movement, thought, digestion, and repair. But as the end of life approaches, the body begins to conserve energy for only the most essential functions. This reallocation is not a failure of will or motivation. It is a natural and expected response to diminishing organ function, slower circulation, and reduced oxygen delivery to the muscles and brain. One of the reasons this fatigue can feel so intense is that the body's systems are no longer working in harmony. The heart may not pump as efficiently as it once did, leading to slower blood flow. Muscles, receiving less oxygen and fewer nutrients, cannot perform at their usual capacity. The lungs may also play a role, especially if lung function is compromised, causing even gentle movements to result in breathlessness. All of these changes contribute to a feeling of heaviness and depletion, even after minimal exertion. For those experiencing this type of fatigue, the emotional impact can be just as challenging as the physical one. Many older adults take pride in their ability to remain independent, to move about on their own terms, and to engage actively with the people around them. When that ability begins to fade, it can lead to frustration, embarrassment, or even shame. They may begin to withdraw, not because they no longer enjoy company, but because interaction itself has become exhausting. This is where families and caregivers play a vital role, not by pushing for more activity, but by recognizing the importance of honoring these new limits. Encouraging someone to keep moving when their body is signaling otherwise can create unnecessary stress and in some cases accelerate decline. Instead, what's often needed is a shift in expectations and a compassionate acceptance of what energy looks like in this stage of life. Creating a supportive environment means building daily routines around comfort and flexibility. If a loved one is most alert in the morning, schedule visits or important conversations then. Allow for naps without guilt or pressure. Offer seating that is supportive, well-padded, and easy to rise from. Make room for quiet. Sometimes simply sitting in silence with someone without requiring them to speak, entertain, or exert themselves can be one of the most loving acts of care. At this stage, emotional reassurance becomes essential. It is not uncommon for seniors to question their worth when they can no longer contribute in the ways they used to, reminding them that their presence is still valuable, that they are still deeply loved, even if they cannot do as much. Helps preserve their sense of dignity. These are the moments when listening matters more than speaking, and when a gentle touch carries more meaning than 1,000 words. It is also worth noting that fatigue can fluctuate. There may be days when your loved one seems more energetic, laughing more, talking longer, or even asking to go outside. These days can be uplifting, but they do not always indicate a return to earlier health. Rather, they are part of the natural ebb and flow of the body's final journey. Enjoy them fully, but remain gently aware that they may be temporary. When persistent fatigue is met with understanding and not resistance, it opens the door to a different kind of care. One focused less on doing and more on being. It is an invitation to slow down together, to hold space for each other, and to focus on what brings peace rather than productivity. In the final year of life, tiredness is more than just a symptom. It is a message from within, asking for gentleness, presence, and rest. If we can listen to that message with compassion, we can transform fatigue from a frustration into an opportunity for stillness, for reflection, and for a deeper kind of closeness. Among the most quietly distressing signs that an elderly loved one may be nearing life's final year are the changes that occur not in the body, but in the mind. These changes often appear without warning. An offhand remark that doesn't quite make sense, a name forgotten during a familiar conversation, or a moment of confusion in a place that should feel safe and known. At first, such incidents may seem like common forgetfulness, but as they become more frequent and more noticeable, they may reflect a deeper, more permanent shift in cognitive function. Cognitive decline in the final year of life is not always dramatic. It does not always resemble the advanced stages of dementia, nor does it always follow a clear or predictable path. Instead, it often presents as a gentle fading, a slow detachment from the mental clarity and engagement that once came easily. A person may become less able to follow conversations, more prone to repeating themselves, or uncertain about the day of the week or the names of close family members. These changes can be subtle, but they signal that the brain, like other organs, is beginning to wind down. The reasons behind these mental shifts are both complex and deeply physiological. As circulation weakens with age and organ systems decline, the brain receives less oxygen and fewer essential nutrients. This affects the brain's ability to process information, regulate emotion, and manage memory. In practical terms, the individual may seem more disoriented, hesitant, or withdrawn. They may lose track of their surroundings or struggle to make decisions that once came easily. In some cases, they may have moments of sharpness followed by sudden confusion, creating a roller coaster of clarity and forgetfulness that can be disorienting for everyone involved. This decline is not limited to memory. Emotional engagement, too, may begin to fade. A person who was once warm and talkative may become quiet or distant. They may no longer show interest in conversations, family visits, or once cherished hobbies. For loved ones, this emotional withdrawal can feel like a premature goodbye, a painful sense that the person is slipping away long before their physical body does. It is important to understand that these changes are not a sign of indifference or lack of love. Rather, they are the result of the brain's diminishing capacity to remain fully present. Loud environments, long conversations, or emotionally charged situations may feel overwhelming or exhausting. Processing complex feelings or reacting appropriately to emotional cues may no longer be possible. This can lead to outbursts of irritability, uncharacteristic silence, or a kind of emotional flatness that may seem confusing to those who remember the person as they were. During this stage, families may find themselves asking questions like, "Why doesn't she respond when I talk to her?" Or, "He used to laugh at my jokes. Why won't he smile now?" These are understandable concerns, but they must be met with patience and a new kind of presence. When words no longer come easily, and when emotions seem distant, love can still be felt through tone of voice, through touch, and through the consistent comfort of simply being there. Gentle eye contact, a hand placed softly over theirs, or a quiet moment spent sitting side by side can convey what words cannot. Music, familiar scents, and the presence of beloved items, photo albums, well-worn blankets, a favorite song playing softly can also create a sense of safety and connection, even when cognitive function declines. It is also important to prepare emotionally for the changes in communication that may come. Repeating questions, misplacing items, or forgetting names are not signs of carelessness. They are signs of a brain that is tired and no longer able to manage complex tasks. Responding with calm reassurance rather than correction or frustration helps preserve dignity and emotional safety. A kind answer given 10 times is far more valuable than a stern reminder given once. In many cases, a person experiencing cognitive decline may also withdraw socially. They may stop calling friends, decline visits, or spend long periods sitting silently. While it may be tempting to interpret this as sadness or loneliness, in reality, it may be a protective mechanism. Engaging with others can require tremendous mental energy, and as that energy wanes, retreating into silence can feel more manageable. Yet within that silence there remains an emotional core that still feels love, still senses presence, and still responds to kindness. While the expressions of love may change, fewer words, fewer smiles, the need for connection does not disappear. In fact, as the end of life draws near, the quiet presence of a loved one may be more meaningful than ever before. When families understand cognitive decline as a natural part of the body's closing process, they can shift from anxiety to empathy. They can begin to see their role not as rescuers or fixers, but as gentle companions walking alongside their loved one through a difficult but deeply human journey. Cognitive changes and emotional withdrawal are not the end of connection. They are a new beginning, an invitation to communicate in quieter, simpler, more heartfelt ways. They call us to listen more, to speak with warmth, and to offer reassurance through presence rather than persuasion. As you notice these shifts in your loved one, if they begin to fade in and out of conversations, if their responses become slower, if their eyes seem to look through rather than at, try not to resist the change. Instead, meet them where they are. Sit with them. Speak softly. Let silence be a form of comfort rather than discomfort. In those quiet spaces, love still speaks, and even when memories fade, the feeling of being loved can linger to the very end. As the final stages of life begin to unfold, the body's defenses, the very systems that once fought to protect and repair it, grow noticeably weaker. One of the clearest indicators of this decline is a pattern of frequent infections and unusually slow healing. For many families, these recurring illnesses may feel like isolated incidents or temporary setbacks, but when viewed in context, they are often important signs that the body is losing its ability to sustain itself in the way it once did. In a younger or healthier individual, the immune system responds quickly and efficiently to threats. Whether it's a minor cut, a seasonal cold, or a bacterial infection, the body typically detects the problem, dispatches its healing agents, and resolves the issue in a matter of days. But in the elderly, particularly in those nearing the end of life, this response becomes slower, weaker, and often incomplete. One of the most common manifestations of this change is the reappearance of infections that had previously been easy to manage. Conditions such as urinary tract infections, UTIs, pneumonia, bronchitis, and skin infections may begin to occur more frequently, often returning within weeks of treatment. Cuts or scrapes that used to heal within days may now take weeks, and bruises may linger longer than usual, sometimes darkening instead of fading. This happens because the circulatory system, which plays a critical role in delivering oxygen and nutrients to tissues, becomes less efficient with age. As a result, the cells that are responsible for repair and regeneration arrive more slowly, or sometimes not at all. Another contributing factor is reduced mobility. When a person begins to spend more time sitting or lying down, pressure sores or bed sores can develop, especially on the heels, hips, or back. If circulation is compromised, even these small wounds can become difficult to heal and may lead to secondary infections if not managed with great care. The skin, thinner and more fragile than in younger years, is more prone to tearing and less able to protect against invading bacteria. Families may notice other warning signs that don't immediately appear related to infection. Sudden confusion, extreme tiredness, or a marked drop in appetite may seem like emotional changes, but for elderly individuals, these can be the first signs of an infection. In fact, many seniors do not exhibit typical symptoms like fever or chills. Instead, their bodies signal distress in more subtle ways, through shifts in mental alertness, unusual drowsiness, or an unexplained sense of malaise. When these infections do occur, the body's ability to respond effectively is often limited. Antibiotics may not work as quickly or as thoroughly. In some cases, the same medication that was once effective no longer achieves the desired result. Multiple rounds of treatment might be required, each one bringing added stress to the body. Even with the best medical care, recovery times can stretch longer and longer, taking a toll not only on the individual but also on their caregiver. For families witnessing these patterns, the natural reaction is to act, to consult doctors, to explore stronger medications, to move quickly in hopes of turning things around. And in many cases, early intervention is still valuable and necessary. But there comes a point when repeated treatments no longer restore the previous level of health. At that stage, the goal begins to shift from curing illness to ensuring comfort. This is not an act of giving up. Rather, it is a conscious choice to prioritize peace and well-being over aggressive intervention. Supporting a loved one through frequent infections means staying attentive to small signs. Ensure they remain hydrated, even if it's just with sips of water or ice chips throughout the day. Help them maintain personal hygiene gently, keeping their skin clean and moisturized. Provide soft, breathable clothing and ensure bed linens are changed regularly to reduce the risk of skin irritation or pressure sores. Keep the environment calm and temperature regulated to reduce physical stress. Emotionally, it's essential to remain calm and present. When a loved one appears more tired than usual or suddenly distant, refrain from assuming they are disengaging by choice. Instead, ask gently how they feel and listen closely. Even if the answers are brief or unclear, if they are confused, reassure them without pushing. Sometimes a warm cloth, a quiet room, and the presence of someone familiar can provide more relief than any medication. It is also important to accept that in this stage of life, healing is no longer a certainty. The body's ability to bounce back is no longer what it once was. And in accepting that, we can begin to let go of the frantic need to fix and replace it with the quiet intention to comfort. When infections occur repeatedly and when wounds linger despite careful care, the body is speaking. It is saying that its resources are nearly spent, and while that message can be difficult to hear, it also provides us with something precious, the chance to respond with gentleness, to lower our voices, to sit a little longer by the bedside, and to walk with our loved one, not in resistance, but in deep compassion. As the body nears the final stages of life, it begins to operate with increasing economy, preserving energy, slowing processes, and gradually releasing its hold on functions once taken for granted. Among the clearest signs of this internal shift are the noticeable changes in breathing patterns and circulatory function. These changes often begin subtly but grow more pronounced with time, offering one of the most important physiological indicators that life is gently approaching its natural conclusion. Breathing, once automatic and unnoticed, may begin to follow new and unfamiliar rhythms. You might observe that your loved one's breath becomes more shallow or irregular. Sometimes it speeds up, only to slow dramatically or pause entirely before restarting. This alternating pattern, known medically as Cheyne-Stokes respiration, can be unsettling to witness. It often involves periods of rapid, deep breathing followed by moments of near silence. While it may seem alarming, it is a natural part of the body's gradual slowing, especially as the brain's respiratory center begins to respond less consistently to rising carbon dioxide levels. Some individuals may also begin to breathe more through the mouth, especially if the nasal passages are dry or if lying flat becomes uncomfortable. Shortness of breath can occur even with the smallest movements, turning in bed, sitting up, or speaking a full sentence. This may be due to the weakening of the lungs themselves or buildup of fluid that reduces the space available for air exchange. A persistent cough, wheezing, or a faint gurgling sound during breathing may develop, often as a result of fluid accumulation, especially in individuals with declining heart or kidney function. The experience of breathlessness can be deeply distressing, not only for the individual but for those who love them. Seeing a loved one struggle to catch their breath, even briefly, often creates an instinctive urge to help. And while certain measures, such as elevating the head with pillows or using a cool mist humidifier, can ease discomfort, it's important to understand that these breathing changes are part of the body's final adjustments. They are not always an emergency to be solved, but a signal to respond with calm and care. Equally telling are the shifts in circulation. As the heart weakens, its ability to pump blood efficiently to all parts of the body declines. The body responds by directing blood flow primarily to the most vital organs, the heart, lungs, and brain, while reducing circulation to the extremities. This redistribution causes the hands and feet to become cool to the touch. Sometimes they may appear pale, bluish, or mottled, especially around the fingers, toes, or lip. This mottling often appears as a faint marbling pattern and is one of the more visible signs that the body is conserving energy in its final phase. These circulatory changes are not painful, but they are deeply symbolic. They mark the point at which the body begins to close its outer systems, narrowing its focus to what is most essential for survival. At this stage, it's common for the person to sleep more, to speak less, and to become increasingly unresponsive to the external environment. Though consciousness may fade in and out, comfort can still be provided through soft blankets, gentle touch, and the quiet presence of loved ones nearby. For caregivers and family members, these moments can be emotionally overwhelming. There is often a desire to intervene, to call emergency services, to adjust medications, or to fix what seems like a problem. But sometimes the most compassionate choice is not to act urgently, but to be present calmly. Creating a soothing environment can offer more relief than medical measures. Soft lighting, minimal noise, and a cool, well-ventilated room can make a profound difference. Moistening the lips, offering sips of water or ice chips, and using breathable clothing can also help the person feel more at ease. If your loved one is receiving care at home or in a hospice setting, medications such as low-dose morphine or oxygen therapy may be used to reduce discomfort associated with shortness of breath. However, the emphasis during this stage is typically not on prolonging life, but on supporting comfort, dignity, and peace. It is important to remember that these changes in breathing and circulation do not always indicate that death is imminent within hours or days. In many cases, they begin to appear weeks, even months, before the final moment arrives. This gradual unfolding gives families time to prepare emotionally and practically. It offers space for final conversations, shared silences, and heartfelt expressions of love that can carry meaning far beyond words. As you observe these signs, cool hands, a fading voice, irregular breaths, let them guide you not into fear, but into deeper presence. Speak gently, touch softly, and remember that the body is doing what it was designed to do, to wind down with wisdom and intention. These signs, though difficult, are not signs of failure. They are reminders of the beauty and fragility of life's closing chapter. In the final days or hours, when the breath becomes shallower and long pauses stretch between each inhale. It can be helpful to remind yourself and others that this, too, is part of the journey. It is the body's last rhythm, the soft release of a life that has been fully lived. And in that quiet space, surrounded by care and understanding, there is profound peace. As the journey toward life's end progresses, the human body, along with the mind, begins to release its hold in a quiet, deeply personal way. While some changes are visible and measurable, others unfold gently beneath the surface. These shifts are not always easily explained by science or medicine. Instead, they are recognized through attentive presence, emotional awareness, and a deep listening to what our loved one is showing us, not only in words, but in silences, gestures, and moments of profound stillness. One of the more subtle signs during this stage is a noticeable change in how the person relates to the world around them. Conversations may become shorter, words may no longer come as easily, or they may fade altogether. A person who once filled the room with stories and laughter may grow quieter, speaking only when necessary, or not at all. Yet this silence does not always signify suffering or sadness. Often it reflects a turning inward, as if the person is gradually releasing their focus on the external world and beginning to look elsewhere, somewhere more internal, spiritual, or even transcendent. Families often describe this stage as a moment when their loved one seems to be between two worlds. They may stare into the distance, appear to converse with people who are not present, or speak in ways that feel symbolic or mysterious. In some cases, they may ask unusual questions or say things that don't quite make sense in a literal way. While these experiences can be confusing to witness, they are often part of a natural psychological and emotional process of letting go. In many traditions and cultures, this time is understood as a moment of spiritual preparation. Whether or not one subscribes to a particular faith, it is undeniable that something meaningful begins to happen. A person may begin reflecting on their past, asking for people they have not seen in years, or expressing a desire to say goodbye. Some individuals become more peaceful and detached, while others may experience restlessness or anxiety as they process what is unfolding. As caregivers, the role is not to interpret or analyze every word or behavior, but to accompany with presence and gentleness. When a loved one appears to drift in and out of awareness, your touch, your voice, and your stillness can become a source of comfort. There is no need to correct or anchor them to the present. Allowing them to speak freely, even if their words are disjointed or dreamlike, gives them space to process in their own way. It is not uncommon for individuals at this stage to express a need to go home, even if they are physically already there. They may speak of journeys or ask about long-departed family members. In such moments, responding with affirmation rather than confusion can be deeply comforting. A simple, "Yes, I understand," or "They know you love them," can ease emotional tension without interrupting the natural flow of thought. During this time, families may also notice their loved one relinquishing attachments to the material world. Interest in possessions, daily routines, or responsibilities often fades. A cherished photograph may still bring a smile, but the desire to organize or discuss daily life may disappear. Appetite, too, continues to diminish, not out of stubbornness or illness, but because the body no longer seeks sustenance in the same way. This withdrawal is not rejection, it is transition. Emotionally, some people experience a sudden sense of clarity or peace. They may express forgiveness, gratitude, or final wishes. Others may grow quieter, more contemplative, and harder to reach through conversation. Whatever the expression, it is important to receive these final gestures with respect and humility. They are often the culmination of a lifetime of experiences, being expressed in the only way the person has energy left to do. For family members, these signs can be bittersweet. They bring the reality of loss closer, yet they also offer a chance for deeper connection, a final opportunity to say, "I love you, thank you," or simply, "I'm here." In some cases, the person may wait to pass until they have seen a specific family member or received permission to let go. It is not uncommon for a simple phrase, "It's okay to rest now," to provide emotional relief that supports the final transition. Understanding that the mind and body let go gradually, not all at once, allows caregivers to enter this phase with compassion instead of fear. There is no perfect script to follow, no single action that ensures peace, but consistency, kindness, and presence are powerful tools. This is a time for soft voices, unhurried movements, and the reassurance that your loved one is safe, valued, and not alone. When we recognize these signs, not just the physical, but the emotional and spiritual ones, we give ourselves the chance to walk alongside our loved one with grace. We begin to shift our attention from trying to hold on to gently letting go. And in doing so, we make space for peace to settle in, even in the midst of sorrow. Recognizing the signs that a loved one may be entering their final year of life is not only a matter of observation, it is a call to preparation. And that preparation must happen on two levels, the practical and the emotional. Both are equally important. While one ensures that affairs are in order and care is well coordinated, the other allows for meaningful conversations, emotional closure, and the preservation of dignity during a deeply sensitive time. On the practical side, there are several steps families can take to reduce stress, support their loved one's comfort, and ensure that their wishes are honored with respect. One of the most essential is initiating a clear and compassionate dialogue about their preferences for care. These conversations, while difficult, allow the individual to express what matters most to them, whether that includes staying at home, receiving hospice support, or having certain medical interventions withheld near the end. Legal and medical preparations should also be addressed early, while the individual is still able to participate in the decision-making process. A living will, advance healthcare directive, or durable power of attorney for healthcare decisions ensures that family members are not forced to make painful choices in moments of crisis. Discussing topics such as do not resuscitate DNR orders, preferred place of death, or specific wishes regarding pain management and life-sustaining treatment can be emotionally challenging, but they are also deeply respectful. They acknowledge the person's right to make choices about their body, their care, and their dignity. Financial matters should also be gently reviewed, ensuring that banking, insurance, and estate documents are organized and accessible can prevent significant strain down the line. Many families find it helpful to create a shared file or folder, physical or digital, where all relevant information is stored securely. This may include contact lists for physicians, medication lists, insurance details, funeral preferences, and copies of essential legal documents. But while these practical steps provide structure, they are only one part of a much larger journey. Equally important is the emotional preparation for both the individual who is nearing life's end and for the loved ones who will remain. It is during this time that families have the opportunity to focus on what truly matters: connection, gratitude, forgiveness, and love. The final year of life offers a unique window for meaningful conversation. Many people use this time to reflect on the past, express long-held feelings, or revisit old memories. These conversations do not always need to be profound. Sometimes the simplest words carry the greatest weight. Saying, "I'm proud of you, thank you for everything," or "I'll always remember this," can provide comfort that lingers far beyond the moment it is spoken. For the person nearing the end of life, emotional reassurance is more valuable than advice. They may be wrestling with fears, regrets, or unresolved questions. Rather than trying to solve or explain these feelings, families can serve as quiet witnesses, listening without judgment, validating without rushing, and simply offering their presence. In doing so, they create space for the individual to find peace in their own way. Creating legacy moments is another beautiful way to honor this time. These moments may include recording stories, writing letters to future generations, or putting together a photo album of treasured memories. They need not be grand or time-consuming. Even a few handwritten notes, shared meals, or favorite songs played quietly in the background can create lasting impressions that become a source of comfort for years to come. Families should also remember to care for themselves during this season. The emotional toll of supporting a loved one through the end of life is significant. Feelings of guilt, sadness, helplessness, or even frustration are natural. Accepting these emotions rather than resisting them allows space for healing and resilience. Leaning on trusted friends, spiritual advisors, or counselors can provide essential support and perspective. Finally, knowing when to accept help from professionals can make a profound difference. Hospice care, for instance, is not just about managing pain. It is about holistic, compassionate support for the patient and the family. Hospice teams include nurses, social workers, chaplains, and volunteers, all trained to address not just physical needs, but emotional and spiritual ones as well. Engaging hospice care early can enhance the quality of life during the final months, providing comfort, reducing hospital visits, and supporting caregivers through every step. Preparation in this context is not an act of surrender. It is a powerful, courageous choice to meet the future with clarity, grace, and readiness. It allows families to move through this sacred time not with panic or avoidance, but with intention. And in doing so, it honors not only the life that is concluding, but the love that continues far beyond the final breath. As we reflect on the journey we've taken through this story, the signs, the changes, the emotional thresholds, we come to understand something vital. The end of life is not simply a moment of cessation. It is a gradual, layered unfolding, a final season that, when seen with clarity and compassion, can become one of the most meaningful times in a person's life and in the lives of those who love them. Throughout this guide, we have explored 5 of the most telling signs that an elderly person may be entering their final year: significant weight loss, persistent fatigue, cognitive and emotional withdrawal, frequent infections with slow healing, and changes in breathing and circulation. Each of these signs, when understood not as isolated symptoms, but as part of a larger, natural transition, helps us recognize what the body and spirit are preparing for. But beyond the signs themselves lies a deeper message, one that transcends medicine and moves into the realm of relationship, memory, and presence. These changes are not just indicators of physical decline, they are invitations. Invitations to slow down, to listen more carefully, to shift our focus from doing to being, to replace urgency with gentleness and fear with understanding. When we embrace this season with grace, we stop fighting the natural rhythm of life. Instead of seeing the signs as something to fix, we begin to see them as moments to cherish, moments that invite us into stillness, into closeness, into the sacredness of simply being with those we love. This is not to say the journey is easy. There will be moments of deep sadness, uncertainty, and pain. There may be questions without answers and goodbyes that come sooner than we hoped. But there will also be moments of quiet beauty, holding a hand in silence, hearing a final story, offering reassurance through a gentle touch. These are the moments that linger, not only in memory, but in the soul. For caregivers and family members, walking alongside someone through their final year is both a privilege and a responsibility. It is a calling to bear witness, to ensure that no one feels forgotten, rushed, or alone. It is a time to affirm life, even as it draws to a close, by offering comfort, respect, and love. So if you are seeing these signs in someone close to you, take a deep breath. Let go of the need to control every detail and lean into what truly matters. Be present, be kind, be patient with them and with yourself. This journey is not about doing it perfectly. And remember, while life will always include loss, it also holds the promise of connection, of meaning, and of peace, even at its very end.